I'm Lisa with Jolie Home. Today we're going to upcycle an old capital top and make it into a riser fit for holiday parties and layering trays. You may not have something this ornate at home, but take a look outside. You might find some old bricks or concrete, even tree trunks that you can paint and embellish to become something beautiful. We are going to be using a handful of products today. Our first step is going to be to paint with Jolie Paint, and we're going to be using our dry brush technique. We will then follow with our gold Szie, which is the adhesive to apply our gold metal leaf, and then we are going to seal everything with our clear Jolie finishing wax. The first thing we're going to do is to apply our Jolie Paint with our chip brush, which is an inexpensive pure bristle brush that has irregular bristles. This is going to allow us to really feather the paint onto the surface. We also have tutorial guides available with 6 of our most commonly used finishes, including dry brushing, found in our everyday guide. You can access that on our website, joliehome.com, or through any of our Jolie retailers to get a hard copy. It's always important to shake and stir your paint before you get started. Because I'm only using a 4-ounce sample pot, shaking is sufficient. If you're using Jolie Paint in a quart, we recommend that you shake the paint for 30 to 60 seconds and then stir with a stir stick all the way down to the bottom of the quart. And you want to make sure that you have a nice creamy consistency all the way through before starting your paint project. So with a dry brushing technique, you want to apply the paint onto the brush or load the brush, and then you're going to offload onto a paper towel. Dry brushing is really about creating layers, so don't feel like you have to have the coverage you want in just one application. I like to go through the entire piece and then come back adding more paint where needed. The reason that I'm dry brushing this capital is because I want to really show some of the wood and the paint that's on the surface underneath. It will just help add to the age and authentic appearance. We're so excited to be doing this show with Home Talk. If you're tuning in live at 3 p.m. on November the 4th, we will be available to answer questions for you, so please don't hesitate to ask anything you like, and we'll do our best to answer them all. So when you're using a chip brush, you want to use a soft kind of feathering motion, which will obviously leave some paint on the higher surfaces and exposing some of the original wood and paint from beneath. The reason that I suggested using brick or a tree trunk that you may find outside is because it will have a very kind of rough and rustic surface, which is going to be great for dry brushing and creating some texture. So when you're dry brushing a flat surface, I like to use a crosshatch pattern. So you're gonna go vertical direction first. And then I'm gonna come back and move in a horizontal direction. I'm also not going to gild the top of the stand, and so I want to make sure that I'm really happy with the look of the dry brushing because this will be the final. I've chosen our Jolie Paint in French Gray for this project because of the design. It has a very kind of classic engraving, and French Gray is just such a beautiful muted neutral, but it has a touch of blue undertones. So any of the color that peeks through the metal leaf that I'm going to apply on the surface will stand out a bit more than just using white. And now I'm going to go around and look for any areas that I want to add another layer of our French Gray before we apply our gold size. You know, using a riser is a great way to add dimension when you have dishes and party food that you're serving. If you have everything just flat on the table, sometimes it really just doesn't layer in the same way, so you don't have as nice of a presentation. Again, you can use any object to paint and gild just to make it something a bit more elevated and elegant for your holiday parties. So I'm gonna let this dry just for a couple minutes. It's gonna go very quickly because with dry brushing, you're applying very little paint, so the water's already evaporating. Now that our paint is dry, we're gonna go ahead with the next step, which is applying the Jolie Gold Size. I'm using an artist brush to apply the size to this project because it's small, but if you were doing something larger, you could always use our large or small flat brushes depending on the surface that you're trying to cover. So our gold size is unique in that when you first apply it to the surface, it's gonna go on with an iridescent blue, and when it dries, it will turn clear, and that means it has come to tack and it's ready for the metal leaf. You can choose to apply metal leaf to the entire surface, or in this case, I'm going to be highlighting the petal engravings and the edge of the riser pedestal. And because this is a very rough surface, I'm expecting my metal leaf to crack when I apply it, which is going to add to the rustic look of the piece. It is important to apply size to any surface that you want metal leaf to stick to. If the size is not there, the metal leaf will not stick. And if you're doing a porous surface like brick or concrete, I do recommend that you apply 2 coats of gold size before applying your metal leaf. Now that I'm coming around to the area where I started, the size, you can see the difference, that it has dried clear as opposed to the iridescence, but I can feel the tack, the stickiness essentially, that is going to grab the metal leaf. So I'm just gonna give the rest of the size a couple of minutes to come to tack, turn clear. While I'm waiting for that, I'm gonna go ahead and prep my metal leaf by cutting it into smaller strips to reduce any waste that I have from using the entire 5.5 by 5.5 inch sheet. All of our Jolie metal leaf comes pre-packed into books of 25 leaves separated with tissue. So I am going to take just several sheets from the book, tear it off, put my remainder back into the leaf so that it doesn't tarnish, and set it aside. Then I'm going to take my metal leaf and cut it into probably, I'm gonna just cut it in half because it looks like this is an appropriate size for most of the carvings. Another trick to making sure that the leaf doesn't stick to your fingers, you can always apply a little bit of baby powder to prevent adhesion onto your fingertips. Now I'm ready to go. Now that the size has come to tack, I'm gonna go ahead and start applying my metal leaf. The Jolie flat brush is a great way to press the leaf onto the surface without scratching the metal, as it's very delicate. I like to use the air to really work in my advantage. So I'm gonna kind of hang it out onto the piece, and then I'm gonna gently press it onto my capital base here. It's important to apply the metal leaf to everywhere that you have applied size, so that when you start to schleff off the excess, it will not leave the small broken pieces behind instead of full cuttings. And because this piece has a lot of texture on the surface and is pretty rustic, I'm going to use some stippling motions to make sure that I get the leaf down into the areas that I want it applied. I'm purposely applying the leaf in smaller pieces because I want to have a bit more of a broken effect as opposed to a consistent sheeting. If you're tuning in for our live premiere and home talk, be sure to ask any questions you have below. We'll be following along and answering everything that you need to know. now that I've applied the leaf to the entire capital, I'm gonna go ahead and brush off the excess. It will make a little bit of a mess initially, but you can actually keep all of your small pieces and put it in a jar and maybe add it to a canvas or a different project at a later date. Okay, now I'm going to take a soft cloth and go over the surface, really just pushing down any remaining loose edges, and then we are going to apply our top coat to seal the metal leaf. Okay, I'm gonna set it aside and clean up the pieces before proceeding. So now that I've applied the gold metal leaf, I'm going to seal it with our clear Jolie finishing wax. It's important to always seal our metal leaf with a non-water-based top coat because it's actual metal. So our gold leaf is brass, our silver is aluminum, and the copper is copper. I'm then going to dry brush some French gray back over the metal leaf just to make it look a little softer and more rustic, and kind of celebrate the original feathering that we did initially. I'm using our pointed wax brush because with this project there's a lot of nooks and crannies and I want to make sure to get into all of the detail. I'm also going to apply wax to the top to seal our Jolie paint. Once you apply the wax, you always need to take a soft, dry cloth, lint-free cloth, and wipe off the excess. Now I'm going to repeat my original step of dry brushing just to add some color back on top of the leaf to soften the appearance. So I'm going to load the brush, offload it onto my napkin, and then just very kind of gently feather over. Looking great. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit more clear finishing wax to seal that last little bit of Jolie paint that I put onto the surface. And wipe back the excess. And that's it. Our upcycled capital base that's going to be used as a beautiful riser on my next holiday party tabletop display. Thank you for watching, and please leave your comments below. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. For more information about Jolie products, as well as tutorial guides and a full listing of our local Jolie retailers, please visit our website, joliehome.com. I'm so excited about my new riser. I think it's going to look perfect on my dining room table, and I'm looking forward to the holidays to use it.